The 4.0 update for Honkai Star Rail is finally here, and with it comes a new planet to explore, the brand new Elation path, new characters, and of course, new Currency Wars updates. So, I wanted to kick things off with one of the team comps I was most excited to try out, an Elation-focused skill point comp featuring Yao Guang and Sparxie, or Hibana, or whatever you want to call her. The point is, it's new, and I'm elated to show it off. Okay, alright. Jokes aside, how does the comp work? Well, as you might imagine, the comp revolves around enabling Sparxie to spam skill points in order to generate tons of punchline, and then using all of that punchline to deal massive amounts of elation damage to the enemy, as well as visual damage to your eyes during her elation skill. And I mean a lot of damage. Now, if you're curious why stacking punchline lets her deal so much damage, you'll have to take a look at the damage formula. It looks like this. But we all know we're not here to talk about that. So, all you need to remember is big punchline means big damage, and you get big punchline from big skill point spending. So to help with building up that punchline, I've personally been finding success with the more speed-focused Sparxie build using the tried and true anti-grav boots alongside Firestorm Surge and the Momentum Edge. Now, alongside Sparxie, her main supports are going to be Yao Guang to provide an elation damage boost as well as Res Pen for Sparxie's elation skill nukes. And then of course, the OG herself, Sparkle, is there to provide skill point regeneration as well as the million of other buffs she now gives. And outside of that, Sparxie really seals the show here with this comp, which on one hand is great if you're looking to try her out early or want a comp to play that features her, but on the other hand, this also means hitting a Sparxie 3 really felt important for winning the run at Wealth Creator 20 and above, especially since her Currency War specific elation skill, Mega Influencer, gets a pretty substantial boost from making her 3 stars. That being said, in order to set Sparxie up to become the walking seizure warning she was meant to be, you'll want to round out the rest of your team with skill point units like Yao Guang, Dan Heng, Saredra, Sparkle, and Archer to hit the 6 skill point bond synergy. This will allow you to get skill point refunds during Sparxie's skill to generate pretty large chunks of punchline at a time. For the rest of the comp, you'll be looking to provide extra buffs and sustain through healers like Huohua and Luocha, and then capping out your team with Sunday in order to provide even more buffs, provide Sparxie extra turns to build up more punchline, and enable Sparkle's Planet of Festivities skill point buff. Now, moving on to the items, I've actually gone back and forth on which items I prefer for the Sparxie comp. I tried out a full damage setup using items like the Star Cleaver Blade and the High Frequency Chainsaw, but even though I was able to clear, I found that the trial version of Sparxie felt like she really lacks speed, which makes it pretty awkward in the higher difficulty tiers of Wealth Creator. Furthermore, the Aha Instance proc scales off the speed of your elation units, so having a faster Sparxie means you get more chances to stack punchline, while also getting more elation skill opportunities to deal damage. All that to say, I actually found a lot more consistency running her with the anti-grav boots, and then for damage, I opted for the Firestorm Surge. Every Aha instance will give Sparxie 2 stacks, so it doesn't take too long, especially with the anti-grav boots, to start reaching pretty crazy levels of on-field strength. Then lastly, I gave her Momentum Edge to provide some more skill point regeneration since she'll be acting faster with this setup. From there, you'd ideally want to use any extra items to make survivability and supportive items like the Analgesia chip or the Planetary Drill. Moving on, like I mentioned earlier, hitting a Sparxie 3 is a pretty important win condition, and as such, your ideal investment environments and strategies are going to be ones that either give you a boost to your econ or give you more items to help you stay healthier throughout the early to mid game. For specific investment environments, you have skill point contract, long-term gains, and economic overheat as solid options. There's also a special shout out to skill points invitation, since hitting the 6 skill point bond synergy without needing Archer lets you hit an important power spike much more reliably. Then for investment strategies, you have options like Procurement Officer Gold, Good Fortune Token Gold, and economies of scale to further help out your econ or make the gearing process a little easier during your run. And as always, these aren't the only viable options for investment environments and strategies, but they do provide an example for which ones can help you out. With that being said, let me walk you through how to get a successful start going for this comp. Once you've selected your investment environment and strategy, there are 2 starting boards that I've used to get through the first plane pretty smoothly. As always, my favorite is the tried and true damage over time opener, which is actually even stronger thanks to some of the buffs in patch 4.0. So, with just the 2-dot synergy bond, you can kinda just coast through plane 1. I also like to try and fit in an early Cosmic Scholar by using Asta and Little Herda to help boost the early game econ even more. Lastly, if you find yourself using this opener, Sampo is a solid early holder of Sparxie's items items thanks to his already high base speed. The other option that I've had success with is an early game skill point opener. Your starting board would look something like Yao Guang, Huohua, Dong Heng, and Sparkle, with Dong Heng obviously holding Sparxie's items until you get her. And you can play it basically how you would the final skill point board. Spam skill points on your carry to blow up the enemies. Now, no matter which board you choose to start with, your goal for the early game is to be around level 6 with 50 gold in the bank by the end of plane 1. Once you've hit plane 2, your goal is to focus on hitting level 8 in order to start rerolling for Sparxie. Along the way, feel free to pick up any units that make up the final board in order to start transitioning into the actual skill point board. As such, your priorities here are going to be getting your skill point units on field, followed by Sunday in order to maximize your skill point units damage. In terms of a carry, if you don't have a Sparxie, a 2-star Dong Heng should be able to at least minimize your losses until roughly plane 2-3. So at this point, I'd really try to only focus on spending gold to level and not rerolling unless you're starting to heavily bleed health. Then, once you've hit level 8 and found a Sparxie, your late game goals will be to reach a 2-star Sparxie, reach level 9 and find Archer to hit the 6 skill point bond synergy, and of course, try and hit a 3-star Sparxie to cap out the board in that order. Now, for the final tips for running this comp, there are a number of enemy affixes that will make playing this Sparxie skill point comp difficult to downright impossible. For starters, self-defense will make surviving multiple rounds pretty difficult, as both Dong Heng and Sparxie deal primarily AoE damage, meaning you'll just end up taking yourself out. Then it goes without saying, but the rapid cooling affix will particularly give you a hard time considering how many skill points you'll be spending per turn. And lastly, there are a number of new enemy affixes in patch 4.0, and in my opinion, Speed Alternation and Time Assassin are two of the standouts for ruining runs. Time Assassin in particular is incredibly frustrating in the higher difficulties, so I'd honestly consider restarting a run if you see this one pop up. Besides enemy affixes, you'll likely experience a power trough midway through plane 2 if you don't happen to find Sparxie naturally. If you find yourself there, it can definitely be worth dipping below 50 gold in order to stabilize by leveling and rerolling to find her. Lastly, it's worth mentioning that the battles for this comp can take a long time, so just brace yourself for that. I've had some okay success just letting auto battle do its thing, although you obviously run the risk of Dong Heng and or Archer using all of your skill points before Sparxie can, kind of bricking your turn. So turn it on at your own risk. Now, with all of that out of the way, for those of you who just like to have an in-game guide, you'll find the strategy compendium code for this team comp down below in the description. So if you use it and find it helpful, be sure to give it a heart. And that about does it for today's video. As always, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe for more Currency War and Honkai Star Rail videos, let me know what you think of patch 4.0 so far down in the comments, and most importantly, have a blessed day.